Howdy, folks. And for the first time, that intro actually has something to do with the movie we're talking about. By virtue of my victory in the last game of Funky Films, talking about one of my choice movies, one of my all-time favorites. You knew I was going to get to Mel Brooks eventually. Blazing Saddles. I'm going to gush about this movie for the next half hour, but I want to hear your thoughts, guys. What'd you think?
Well, I've seen this movie before. I probably watched this movie before you did, George.
Probably, but what did you think this time?
Um, it's still very funny. I mean, it's not one of those movies that like changes that much, uh, like perspective wise. It's just fun gags and things.
Yeah, I liked it. It's pretty straightforward, the sort of the underlying themes of making fun of racists and everything. I'm thinking of the scene where they're trying to get the Klan members and lure them behind the rock and everything, and they say, where are all the white women? Like
Where are all
that's
the white women at?
yeah, that's such a great line with, obviously historical illusion. Yeah, so I loved it. It's great.
Yeah, Mel Brooks never wanted to shy away from any making fun of anything.
I mean,
No.
he's got a Yiddish-speaking Native American chief that he plays himself. Like, there are some things that he's done, and maybe we could broaden this out to some more of his movies, but there are some things that he's done that he has reshaped comedy in a sense. Because exactly what you said, Ben, he's not afraid to really, or Max, did you say it? He's really not afraid to just go for it with every bit.
But yeah, I mean, I think both him and the Zucker brothers really personified that sort of Jewish humor, slapstick style that influenced a lot of people after that. But yeah, I mean, there definitely is a lot of Judaism involved in all of his projects. And the Zucker brothers obviously did Airplane. They're Jewish too. It's a type of humor, you know. If you talk to enough Jewish people, normally there's some uncle out there who has similar types of jokes. And I think it's nice that it became so popular. Um,
Yeah, I mean, if you ask,
But yeah, I would say it's like a version of Max brought up Monty Python the other day. It kind of is like Monty Python is a British version of, all that stuff.
I think
But
after the last time that I watched Holy Grail,
hmm
I made an observation just to myself that if Monty Python hadn't gotten to Arthurian legend first, Mel Brooks would have gotten there. And he kind of does with Robin Hood Men in Tights, kind of adjacent with the whole, Old English type of
but yeah, I mean it
setting.
is like Arthurian tales are much more of a like European thing though. I think
Yeah.
the things that he typically tackled, like Blazing Saddles is perfect. I mean that is Americana at its like finest, the wild, wild west.
The wide, wide
And
world of sports.
the wide world of sports. But he also, mixes in a lot of messages from then and from current day. I mean, it's a clever mix of actual political messages disguised as, humor or the reverse. I don't, whichever way you want to look at it. But everything is very funny, but it's not just like random.
Yeah, I think in terms of laughs per minute, this film has such a high volume of just timeless jokes and bits that could apply to 1874, 1974, or 2025, where they're just always going to be funny and topical.
Yeah.
Yeah, because making fun of racist people is always funny.
True.
Yeah, I mean it's
And
a bit different from like Spaceballs. That's just sort of making fun of the pop culture at the time. And I guess capitalism. Spaceballs, the flamethrower. But
Yeah, the kids love that one.
Yeah, I think Blazing Saddles is definitely his most acclaimed film, and for the reason that it's not just funny, but also, like you said, it's got a lot of themes that are relevant all the time.
It,
And the jokes are also jokes about those themes, so it's not like they're ham-fisted in. It all fits together.
yeah, it all makes sense for the film, no matter which one we're talking about. Like they all work within the narrative, they all work within the story.
Well, I'm talking about Blazing Saddles because like
Oh,
his other
oh, oh,
films
okay.
are not.
I thought you just meant in general Mel Brooks.
No, that's what I was saying. Is like Spaceballs is just sort of funny. It's making fun of pop culture, whereas Blazing Saddles is most acclaimed because it deals with more prevalent themes than you know that Star Wars.
Yeah, I saw Blazing Saddles on the big screen for the first time, obviously because it was in theaters 50 years ago. But last fall, I went to see the 50th anniversary re-release, and there were certain things in the movie that I picked up on for the first time seeing it on the big screen. And tonight, like literally 15 minutes ago, before we started recording this episode, I just finished the movie for the first time since I saw it on the big screen. I was able to pick up on those little moments again. Um, but there are subtleties even beyond the the jokes in this film that I think happen in a lot of Mel Brooks movies. Um, Mostly the fourth wall breaks. Before we get to the literal fourth wall break at the end of the movie, um, there are just little moments where you've got
Yeah, I wouldn't call those subtleties. That's are pretty prevalent.
they are, but like the moment where Harvey Korman looks directly into the camera and says, "Why am I asking you?" That's pretty blatant. All right, I'm breaking the fourth wall here. But there's another moment right as he's about to do that long list of all the criminals that he wants to raid Rockridge, where Slim Pickens, who is just phenomenal in this movie, uh, steps forward with Harvey Korman and upstages him in front of the camera, and then slowly backs himself up. And it's so like blink and you miss it, and I missed it for my entire life until last fall. But it's just so quintessential Mel Brooks, where you've got this fourth wall breaking moment of humor that doesn't really add a lot to the plot. It doesn't really add a lot to, I mean, there's no dialogue in the moment, but it's so funny for that one moment that it enhances the scene and it enhances the character dynamic. And it's just, it, all of his comedy, but especially stuff like that, really just, it blows me away every time I see it.
Yeah, we're in on the joke.
And that happens for pretty much the entire movie. But what's great about the fourth wall breaks is sometimes the characters themselves are like in on the joke from the perspective of the audience. And I think that makes his films differ from a lot of other comedies that we've talked about. Like you brought up Airplane Ben, and other than that one Kareem rant about how, you try dragging this team up and down the court for 48 minutes a night. Other than that moment, we're the ones who are picking up on the jokes because everyone's playing it straight.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a bit of a unique movie because a lot of those lines were taken from an actual disaster film. That was the genius of it. It's different movies.
Yeah.
Zucker Brothers have other stuff like Kentucky Fried Movie. That's much more straight slapstick. Well, I mean, it still has their yeah. I mean, they have their own style. Everybody's got their own style. But yeah. I mean, Mel Brooks has always done that. I wouldn't say it's like subtle. I mean, like Spaceballs has an entire scene where they need to figure out where the rebels went, and so they put in Spaceballs the movie and fast forward to the end. They're like, how do they get this? And it's like, oh yeah, everything's available before it's even out in the theaters. Um, I mean, they're all jokes and then of themselves, so it's not like some grand, I don't know, statement or whatever. It's just like a funny way to play with the audience, and everything is for him. It's there's a million gags a minute. It's not like it's trying to portray something straight, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about Mel Brooks' movies, whether it's a not a parody, but satire on an idea like Western Americana of the Old West, or whether it's pop culture, or whether it's, the tales of Robin Hood, or even High Anxiety parodying Vertigo, which we've talked about. I think what I love about Mel Brooks is that he just his style of humor is so adaptable to different subject matters
Well,
that
he's a
it's
funny
all it's
guy.
all yeah, it's all similar humor, but he makes it work in every setting.
Yeah, I mean,
And he's at his best here. Ben, you said it. He's at his best here.
yeah, I would say any good comic should be able to adapt their humor.
But not a lot of them
Uh,
are. A lot of them
well,
have
yeah.
one thing.
Well, I mean, Mel Brooks is one thing, to be fair. It's not like he's changing his style of humor. He's just changing the background. He's mastered his own style of humor, is what I'm saying. Like Adam Sandler can do the same thing. I mean, you put him in anywhere. It's like all of a sudden it's an Adam Sandler movie, no matter what the plot is. Um,
So
I think he just had a very like the one thing I always loved about Mel Brooks movies is that they're fun. They have strong messages in some of them, but for the most part, they're very easy to watch. The characters are very uplifted. Nobody's really depressed. It's not quite the same as some other slapstick movies. Um, it really focuses on just happiness. Like they're very happy movies. I don't know how to say it. But they just have this like feeling of hope to them with all the gags. And even when you're making fun of stuff like racism, it just feels more, I don't know, they're more fun than a lot of other movies that you can watch. Like comedies are always going to be funny, but these are just very, I don't
it,
know if
it's
optimistic is the word,
it's the difference
jovial.
between funny and fun.
Yeah, I mean these his films are both, but they just don't have that like spirit of spite or anything. Like comedy can sometimes be very negative. Um, and his comedy is anything but. And so they're very easy to watch, and that's why like a lot of people love them. They're not like making, looking down on somebody. They're sort of just making fun of everything.
Yeah. So
Very lighthearted.
so what's your favorite scene in this movie? Because there's a lot of it really just plays it scene to scene to scene to scene to scene where there's,
Uh, it's easy. That's when they escape onto the studio and they start like they're crossing behind like Count Basie and everything. That's fantastic. Um, I mean, what a wild way to end a movie. It's so out of left field, and I just love it. Every time I watch it, I love it every second. But I mean, there's a million. Like Mongo just pawn and Game of Life is a great quote.
Max, how about you?
I mentioned it earlier, but it's the where all the white women at when they're recruiting the clan members to steal their robes and everything. I that got the most sort of visceral reaction out of me when it happened. I don't it just it surprised me and I laughed. So I that stuck out.
I really do love the opener where it comes in and it's like, nobody move.
That's his introduction to Rock Ridge is my favorite scene.
It's a great one. Won't somebody help that poor man?
Shut up. But yeah, there's so I mean, when I was in high school, I was in a I was like an acting for film class, and we did a comedy unit, and we were all assigned to bring in a scene from any comedy ever. And one person, not me, come to think of it, I can't even remember what I brought in for that class. How sad is that? But I remember what this other person brought in, and it was the campfire scene, which is the lowest brow humor in the entire movie. But it's so damn funny because it's just a group of cowboys farting and belching and all of the bodily noises, and it just keeps escalating and escalating for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I gotta say that's not my favorite. It's
It's not my favorite, but just like it's the simplest form of humor in the entire movie, and they only do it once, which is why it works. Like you're not making shitting and farting jokes for an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
it's not like the guy in Tropic Thunder, Meet the Farts, and every movie was a fart.
It's Jack Black's
Uh,
character, right?
yeah, but yeah, I never liked that humor, but yeah, I mean, he doesn't stick on any joke long enough for you to care if you're not digging one joke. That's what I mean. It's like a million gags a minute. You're gonna find something funny and all that.
And the story here, it's your classic cowboy story of, guy rolls into town to save the day, but adding the thematic elements of racism and profiteering and corruption, all like these are relevant themes that, and we touched on this earlier, these are relevant themes that come up in other movies and other comedies, but the levity brought by Mel Brooks, where it's like you said, Ben, it's uplifting, it's fun. It makes the themes more, I don't want to say accessible, but like it makes them easier to address.
Yeah, I mean, one of his big themes in every single film he does is he hates government figures. He hates, corrupt politicians, anybody with power. And I'll go back to Spaceballs. He's literally got, the character he plays. First of all, in Blazing Saddles, you've got the work, work, work. All I do is work, 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 work. Um, and Spaceballs, you've got the guy literally sells Perrier, as in air for people to breathe, and he's suffering, which is like depriving people of, you know, things that they can't live without. Literally, uh-oh,
Uh-oh.
am I still here? Uh-oh.
You're still here. You've been breaking up a little bit.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
All right.
once,
Well,
knock on wood, it's not me.
yeah,
George
no, I
just
think I'm
disappears
back.
immediately.
But
Huh?
yeah, it's like these are really profound themes, but they're really easy to address because you're literally talking about like Perrier. You're making jokes about everything. So it addresses them, but also in a way that's really accessible because it's funny. Humor is always a good way to get through.
Ben, you're cutting in and out here, so I'm gonna pick it up from there. Um, let's talk for a minute here, Max, while we figure out what's going on with Ben. Um, about some of the performances in this movie. Who really stands out to you here in this film?
Well, I mean, obviously Gene Wilder's perfect. But oh hey, welcome
Ben's
back.
back.
Did I complete my sentence?
I think
Almost.
so.
My train of thought?
Yeah.
Harry Air.
Yeah. You make
Yes.
fun of everything, so it sort of allows you to like navigate these difficult issues. And I would just add on to that, like the second part of it is it also doesn't diminish the issue that it's making fun of, right? And I think that's kind of where a lot of comedy fails today. And that's why, you have these comedians coming out. I forget who it was today that said like comedy is too hard these days or something. I think it
I
was
think it
Seth
was Seth
Rogen, but
Rogen.
it was in a positive way. Like I actually agreed with him that like it should be hard,
Yeah.
right? Because audiences are adapting, they're changing. A good comedian, Ben, like you said, should be able to do that with their
Yeah.
material and keep up with the times and keep it sort of timeless, right? That's why we still watch Blazing Saddles today. That's why we're talking about it today. Is because the humor is timeless, the issues are timeless, unfortunately, but it deals with it in a way that doesn't belittle the issue that it is trying to address. And I think to bring it back, George, to your question of performances, that is crucial. Um, you can't have the actors not buy in and sort of sell it short either, because then that would also sort of diminish the issues in and of itself too.
And that's really where Cleavon Little shines in this movie as Bart, because you had to have somebody willing to go along with everything that Bart does in this movie. And Little really, like I said, stands out. He shines in this role. And Max, you brought up Gene Wilder, who is perfect. And with, the idea of racism being a key theme in this movie and tackling it, it's not lost on the audience that Jim, the Waco Kid, is a white man who, from the moment he meets him, accepts this black sheriff for who he is. And it takes the rest of the town a long time to get used to it, but it's still, these actors and these characters bringing the theme to the forefront and pressing on with the story.
Yeah, Jim the Waco Kid with one of the legendary slapstick moments where he's so fast that he seemingly doesn't move. Inspiration for the SpongeBob joke to come decades later, for those of you that know.
Um, yeah, I mean Harvey Korman is another clear standout. He says late in the movie, you might be risking your lives, but I am risking an almost certain Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Was not nominated, which might be the biggest travesty of the Oscars that year.
Oh my
Uh,
God, Mel Brooks never got it nominated.
Madeline Kahn got nominated for playing Lily Von Shtupp for Best Supporting
Oh
Actress.
really?
Yeah,
Wow, that's funny.
this film got 3 Oscar nominations. It didn't win any. Had
Yeah,
to
I'm
come
sure
out the
I'm sure
same
he's
year
gotten a few
as.
nominations, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that it even other than like maybe Gene Wilder or something. But I don't know, like it's tough. Comedy is a tough one to judge in the Oscars.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we're going to be talking about in a few weeks when we do our Oscar predictions episode. Because there are
True.
some comedies nominated this year.
Yeah, yeah, more
Conclave
dramatic
being the top of
comedies
the list.
is like a
But
real pain, but that's more dramedy, I guess.
yeah,
Conclave is a comedy. That shit's
Comedy,
hilarious.
yeah, it is. It is.
did you say that on the Conclave episode a few months ago, Max?
No, but
We were all thinking it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I love this movie because I grew up on Mel Brooks. I've been
Yet you
watching.
still prefer the remake of The Producers.
No, I love the original from '67 with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder. I love
Yeah,
that
but
movie
why on Letterboxd is it rated at a 5 for the remake and a 4 for the original?
because it's the Broadway musical, and I love the songs of the Broadway musical. Sorry,
Unacceptable.
sorry.
Yeah, but why do you have Mel Brooks at 4? It's not good enough? Only 4 stars for George?
I think it's time for a rewatch of the original. But
Good.
yeah,
You gotta bump that number up. I don't care if you rate the other one at five. You can't have the original at 4 stars.
okay, I will bump it up, Ben. Jeez. I mean, it does. It deserves it.
It does.
But yeah, I grew up on Blazing Saddles and Robin Hood Men in Tights and Young Frankenstein and The Producers and History of the World Part One. Like, there are so many Mel Brooks classics to name.
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
It's actually not his best one, but I love it.
I love it. It's we could do an entire episode
I
on
really love
Spaceballs, I'm sure.
yogurt.
I hate yogurt, even with strawberries. I want to go watch Spaceballs after this. Um, but yeah,
Wish
I
force be
mean,
with you.
it's one of those movies that the logic for me is circular. You know, I love it because I love it. I've spent my entire life watching these movies. They're just part of my lexicon where I'll make the reference or I'll toss a meme in the group chat from one of his movies. Um, they're insanely quotable in every context that it just they all stick with you. And this movie is his best. So thank y'all for chatting about it for a little bit.
Yeah. Always happy.
Um, we're going to be reworking Funky Films moving forward for future playings of the game. So we're going to play again in a couple months. Aiden will be back to host that, and the winner of that, whether it's me again or one of these two, or Aiden if he can figure out a way on the board, um, we'll do another one of our favorite reviews. And what was I going to say next? Oh, next week. Next week we are diving into the first of three Marvel Cinematic Universe films for the year. We are talking about Captain America: Brave New World. We're going to see Anthony Mackie full-fledged as Cap. We're going to see Harrison Ford as Red Hulk. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. By the time this episode that we're talking on right now drops, I will have seen the movie. I'm excited about it. So you can check out Blazing Saddles. It's streaming or available to rent, not expensive. If you haven't seen it by now, it's been 50 years. Watch it. Bless
Bless
you.
you. Bless
Bless you.
you. Bless you.
Bless you. I
Thanks.
was really
Thank you,
hopeful that
Sky.
your screen would freeze mid sneeze.
Unfortunately not. I changed the internet.
Um, yeah, so we will see you next week for Captain America: Brave New World. In the meantime, enjoy Blazing Saddles. Have a good night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.